Welcome into Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on the program today, the latest Texans news and rumors leading into the Chiefs divisional round matchup. Now, I won't be talking a ton about the Chiefs-Texans matchup because today the Texans are actually being sent off to Kansas City. I know there's a couple guys who are questionable on, the injury report. I know Joe Mixon, Robert Woods, Azeez Al-Shire. I'll make a video later on today if any breaking news happens. I expect all those guys to end up making the trip and playing up against Kansas City. But obviously, if things change, make sure you keep us locked in and make sure you hit that sub button. Another reason why you get to hit that subscribe button is because we got a sub 4 dubs. I did it last week in the wild card round up against the Chargers. I said if we get to 24,000, we'll get the dub. Well, now we're going on to that next milestone, 25,000. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Don't jinx it. Don't be the one person who's like, dang, if only I had subbed to that dumb YouTube guy, Jeremy Chuggs, the Texans might have won this game. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm also not saying that's going to happen. I'm just messing with you. Make sure you hit that sub button for daily Texans news and rumors content all year long. And for our watch party, we'll be going live an hour before kickoff here on the channel, so don't miss a thing. Make sure you keep us locked in and hit that sub button. So I'm going to start off today's show actually on a pretty bright note. Tank Dell had surgery, successful surgery. Posted on his IG, looks like he's doing good, throwing up the H's as always. Our guy, Tank Dell, really glad to see that he's doing okay and that he's recovering from surgery nicely. And I, for one, cannot wait. I cannot wait for the comeback. This story is going to be awesome, and I really hope we get to see Tank Dell at some point next season. I'm not holding out hope. I know this is going to be a story that we follow throughout the offseason, going into next season during, training camp, during the start of the regular season next year. We're going to be talking a lot about Tank Dell and whether or not or when he's going to be able to return, if so at all, during the 2025 regular season. And I really do wish the best for Tank. If you could, my man Tank, go spam those threes down in the comment section for Tank Dell. Really hope he's back at some point next year, or at least he's on the right track and getting back into where he was this year. Really hope the best for Tank Dell. He was on the sidelines, and so was Stefon Diggs for that Texans wild card matchup. So it makes me think, could the Texans be re-signing Stefon Diggs this offseason? When the Texans traded for him with the Buffalo Bills, they restructured his contract to make it where Diggs will be a free agent this offseason. They basically paid up all his money up front, voided the final 2 years of his contract, and it turned into a 1-year deal. So I do wonder if Stefon Diggs will be re-signed this offseason, but I also wonder, I've been seeing a lot of clips of Stefon Diggs working out, him, balancing on that leg, and I talked to fellow content creator, shout out to Landry Locker, hit him up on Twitter, and I asked, do you think there's a possibility Diggs could come back at some point this postseason? He said no, Diggs hasn't really been working out around the team facilities, but I do wonder if the Texans are able to pull off the upset up against Kansas City and get one step closer to that Super Bowl. Could Diggs return for a Super Bowl run? This wouldn't be the craziest thing that we've seen all time of players coming back after injury. One that really sticks out to me and one that I remember vividly as a kid growing up, Terrell Owens. He played on a broken leg in the Super Bowl up against the New England Patriots, and he didn't only play. He was arguably the best receiver for the Eagles that day. I mean, absolutely had himself a field day up against the Patriots. And if he can go back from a broken leg, I believe he also had some torn ligaments in his ankle. 2 injuries after 7 weeks. What says Stefon Diggs can't do the same? I mean, obviously, horrible injury happened at the end of October. But if the Texans, we're talking 3-4 weeks down the line, if they do, I know I'm getting ahead of myself. If they do win these next couple of games, if they make it to the Super Bowl, obviously there is a big spot for him because currently the Texans wide receiver depth chart, you got Nico, Xavier Hutchinson, then Robert Woods, Jared Wayne, John Mechie, and on IR right there, you see Stefon Diggs and Tank Dell. So it does make me wonder if there is that slight possibility of Diggs returning if the Texans make a magical run. I don't think there's a 0% chance of it happening. I don't think there's it's going to be very likely, but at the same time, Diggs came to the Texans to win a Super Bowl. He has made that clear. He wants that Lombardi trophy. He wants that Super Bowl ring. And if there's a slight opportunity for him to do that, for him to give the Texans a better chance at winning a Super Bowl, and he's maybe 50, 60, 70%, I don't know. I know, like I said, I know he's a free agent this offseason, but it would be a all-time gutsy performance if Diggs does try to come back and is able to come back for the Houston Texans at some point during this postseason. Now, I'll get into all things Bobby Slowik because I don't know if you heard, according to some websites, Bobby Slowik is the favorite. Yes, the favorite to be the next Jets head coach. I'll break that down and more in just a moment, but couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors over at PrizePicks. Get started today. It is daily fantasy sports made easy, folks. America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. Get on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. There's a ton of stuff out there, not just Texans. Also, Monday, college football, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and they have a special going on right now with Will Howard. If you want to maybe even add him to your lineup for this weekend, if you're making a lineup for the Texans game, add Will Howard because they have him discounted at 0.5 passing yards. So if he gets 1 passing yard, that is a win for that one. So you just basically get a free win right there. Also, I took Riley Leonard, Jeremiah Smith on the less. I think this is going to be a defensive battle in the college football national championship, which maybe not the most fun game to watch, but that's what I think is going to go down. Maybe use my picks or go against them. Just do it over on PrizePicks because it's playoff time. It's now or never, and don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with PrizePicks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So get started today with our friends over at PrizePicks. Run your game. Slowik to New York. He interviewed for the Jets head coaching job yesterday, and he could be on the move. It was a virtual interview. Obviously, Slowik still in Houston, still preparing for that Chiefs divisional round matchup. So, I did a little bit of digging, and according to a website that I found online, which obviously there's a lot of different odds out there, it had Slowik as the number 1 odds to land the Jets head coaching job right in front of Brian Flores, Joe Brady, and Aaron Glenn. And I think there are a couple reasons for this. And obviously this isn't the end-all be-all. There's a lot more odds out there that don't have Slowik as the number 1 option for the New York Jets. But I think it's a really real possibility, and why he might get the job, there's 2 reasons for that. One, there's a lot of head coaching jobs available this offseason, and the pool isn't amazing. I mean, when you look at all the guys who are interviewing, obviously there's some guys who stand out, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of teams that might be reaching, and Bobby Slowik might be a reach for the New York Jets. Also, for the Jets, I don't think there's a ton of interest in that head coaching job compared to others. So if they're looking for a top guy, one of their top guys, there's a real possibility that that guy either wants to go to another place, another head coaching vacancy, or does kind of what Ben Johnson did this past season and say, I'm good. I'd rather just stay with my current team for 1 more year and see what job opportunities come next year. Now, I know that is a bold statement, and not a lot of coaches would be willing to do that. But at the same time, when I look at the head coaching vacancies, I think the Jets might be the worst one, right? Like, here are the teams that still need a head coach, who are still looking for a head coach. Obviously, the Patriots already hired Mike Vrabel, but the Raiders, they need a coach. The Bears need a coach. Same with the Jacksonville Jaguars, New Orleans Saints, Dallas Cowboys, New York Jets. Out of all those teams, you could argue the Jets' job is the least desirable out of all the openings. The only other one that I think competes with it at the bottom of the barrel is Jacksonville, because of Trent Baalke and the GM situation there. But at the end of the day, in Jacksonville, you have Trevor Lawrence, a young quarterback that you can build around. I know the critics are still out on Trevor Lawrence, whether he's good or not, but at least you have some semblance of what you're going to do next year. If you're the New York Jets, you might have Aaron Rodgers, a guy who has been flirting with retirement on and off of multiple podcasts throughout the regular season and going into the offseason. And there's kind of a shit show at the top in New York with their owner, and then they just fired their GM, who Joe Douglas was with the Philadelphia Eagles beforehand. I don't know what's going on in New York. So I think all this turmoil, all this chaos, we all remember when the Texans ended up hiring David Culley just 4 or 5 years ago. Remember that? Remember when the Texans hired David Culley? It was because nobody wanted that job. Nobody wanted the Texans job because there was so much uncertainty, and people knew this was a job that if you take it, there's a very high possibility that you won't be the head coach in a year or two. And I think the same can be said about Bobby Slowik with this New York Jets head coaching job. Is he the best, man for the job? Is he the most qualified guy to be a head coach? One of the top 32 coaches in the NFL? I don't think so right now. I think, a lot of people are a lot, lower on Bobby Slowik than me. I still think he can be a good OC in this league. I do think he's regressed this year, but I don't know if he's head coach material right now. But if the Jets are desperate, if they're looking for a young offensive mind, if they want somebody who can come in and take orders and doesn't care about dealing with the drama around Aaron Rodgers, maybe Slowik's that guy, because I don't see any of the top options really being enticed to go to the New York Jets. Like Aaron Glenn, he might be a top candidate for the New Orleans Saints. Joe Brady with the Buffalo Bills, I'm not sure if I'm Joe Brady that I really feel comfortable going over to New York rather than staying in my position in Buffalo and working with Josh Allen and just being that much better going into next offseason, maybe getting another head coaching opportunity. So as I look at the open jobs and as I look at the head coaches that are available, that are, interviewing with these different teams, makes me think the idea of Slowik going to New York might be a lot more realistic than some people think. Now, that's all I have for you on today's show. As a reminder, we will be live for the divisional round. Texans going up to Arrowhead. Help me root on the Houston Texans as we get ready for this absolute clash. I'm ready. I know you will be too. Make sure you hit that sub button and don't miss a moment of Texans football.